All right, let's get this started. Testing, testing, 1 2 1 2. I repeat, testing, testing, 1 2 1 2. All right, let's get this started. Testing, 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 1 2 1 2 2. Testing, 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 1 2 1 2. That'll have to do. All right, we're good to go. Public save. Well, let's do this. May well be last time I get to do this. We will see what happens. Hope not. I rather like doing this. Okay. It should be public. Oh, there it is. Yeah, alright. Can I do the live link? I can, but I would rather not. Oh, it's not going to let me? Okay. That's fine. Welcome aboard, everyone. This is going to be kind of an interesting stream. I will get started here in just a second. I gotta do that. Just gotta send out a whole link. Okay, there we go. Alright, we have, what's that? How many people we got? Okay. So, we're going to ignore that. So, this stream is going to be a little bit different from the previous ones. The thumbnail might have indicated that to you, as well as the title. For one, I'm doing this solo, which is we've juggled that idea before. Unfortunately, this time it does look like I'm going to have to do it because my dear co-host and editor Wilson is indisposed. He's moving houses. He just finished packing today, so mazel tov to our dear friend Wilson, but he will just be, as he says, relegated to the chat for today. I know this is quite late at night. I was going to do this earlier, but as ever, things got in the way. This should be a fairly short stream. This will be maybe at most 2 hours long. I'm thinking closer to a single hour. Honestly, if I didn't have to edit it, this could totally be a video, but we'll make it a more off-the-cuff kind of stream instead. This won't be a usual, news summary kind of an analysis thing that I do. We will be talking about the news. We will be analyzing the news, but it's not the same structure. I want to talk about where we are. Today is Trump's first 100 days, and I want to mark that and try and make sense of what the hell has happened in the last 100 days. How much things have changed and where we are heading and what the hell we can do. James Valva says, "Hello, I'm new, but I've liked your comments so far on the political crisis." Well, that's what this stream is about. It's about the political crisis. It's about how we got here and our way out of here. We have a solid number of people. So let's do this. So, today is April 30th, 2025, 80 years to the day that Adolf Hitler shot and killed himself in the Fuhrer bunker in Berlin. All in all, pretty good day. It is also 100 days since Donald Trump was inaugurated President of the United States for the second time. The whole first 100 days thing has always been kind of arbitrary, in my opinion. I mean, there's nothing really, like, important about 100 days as opposed to, 99 or 101 or 200. It's just like a big, round, nice number that sounds important and plays well in headlines, and it's supposed to, indicate how a new president's term is going, kind of like a new president's first State of the Union, but later in the year. It's never really mattered. It's very much so a media phenomenon, more so than any kind of a real, like, thing in politics. It's just a thing that the media made up so that they can create headlines, and that's fine. It's supposed to indicate how presidency is going, and it's pretty banal, normally. But with President Trump, round two, it feels different. It feels more, I want to say important, but that would carry too much of a positive kind of meaning. So the word I'm going to go with is ominous. Donald Trump's second administration is unlike any that this country has ever seen before, including his first one. His first administration was, well, it was chaotic, it was corrupt, of course, it was incompetent. It was a very bad time. He was already the worst president in our country's history. But set aside the scandals, and really he was just a bad president. A very bad president, but not anything more than that. His second administration is different. He is not surrounded by moderates. He is not surrounded by any kind of competent people. Say what you will about the first Trump administration, but there were people in that administration who were really good at their jobs. He fired a lot of them, but they were there, for part of it anyway. Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, pretty much single-handedly saved the U.S. economy during COVID. So it was very different. It was not fully Trump loyalists in the government. But it's not just that. This is something that both his supporters and opponents will actually agree upon, which is kind of interesting. But of course from very different angles. They will agree on this statement that I've just made, that Donald Trump his second administration is unlike any that we have ever seen in the United States. Of course, in pro-Trump circles, that's like the press secretary earlier today in a cabinet meeting going, I don't remember her exact words, but it was something along the lines of, you've been in office for 100 days, and they've been the most, like, eventful and productive 100 days, first 100 days in any presidency in the entire history of the United States. What do you have to say about blah, 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 blah? That's one thing inside Trump world. They will all say that he's the greatest president of all time, that nobody's ever done it like him before, and in a dark, funny kind of way, it's true. But, of course, not because he's the greatest president in the United States. In my view, the biggest reason that this feels so different is that Trump isn't behaving like a newly inaugurated president. I mean, what is a U.S. president, right? It's the executive, it's the head of state, it's the head of government, it's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, elected to, protect America's national interests, and at least since, like, the Civil War, also to ensure the domestic security and liberty and prosperity of American citizens, and to alleviate whatever plight they might be facing at any given point in time. So the first 100 days typically is just a marker of, this is what they have done so far to help the American people, or, have failed to do whatever, but this is what they've tried to do, and here's what they're going to do going forward. We don't have that this time. We don't really have a newly inaugurated president going to work to fulfill his promises and help the American people. He's not behaving like that. He is behaving like a newly crowned king. He is consolidating his power. He is closing the ranks around him. He is striking out at all who oppose him and silencing all dissent. Just the other day, a judge who opposed his violent, fascistic immigration policies was just up and arrested by, I think, the FBI. Just openly in the daylight. They bragged about it. They posted a photo of it online. They're bragging. They're not hiding it. He's not acting like a president. He's not acting like a servant of the people. He's acting like a king. I said this back in February. I said we are entering the new American monarchy. That was the title of the third or fourth stream that I've done in this series. Welcome to the new American monarchy. This was in the wake of Trump and members of his inner circle, openly and seriously flirting with this idea of an unconstitutional third term in office from 2028 to 2032. That's only gotten more serious since then. Now the Trump official whatever store is selling Trump 2028 hats, which is not a very definitive indicator on its own, but they're going to keep saying that it's a joke until in 2027 he announces his run for a third term. The Republican Party will nominate him practically unanimously. His name, one way or another, will probably end up on the ballots, assuming he is still alive. If he has a pulse, it will happen. Now, I've talked about that before in that previous stream, so you can go watch that for my analysis there. In very brief terms, I don't think this is really Trump. I don't think he's mentally all there or anywhere near it. He is a puppet for weaker and less charismatic people behind him who need him as a talking head. They don't really want Trump in charge so much as they just want him doing their bidding forever, or until he dies anyway. And unfortunately, the 2 months since I have done that stream have done nothing but vindicate my predictions. I'm going to keep going in just a second, but I want to answer a question because maybe people aren't aware of this. Wilson asked, what was the judge even charged with? That's a great question. Let's go find out. But I can tell, I don't know what she was formally charged with. But here it is. Her name was Hannah Dugan. Milwaukee judge was arrested last week on charges... For the love of God, yes, I'll turn on ads, you bastards. The Milwaukee County judge was arrested last week on charges that she obstructed the detention of an undocumented immigrant in her courtroom. So the story goes that she was overseeing an immigration hearing. ICE shows up, Immigration and Customs Enforcement shows up to arrest this guy. She lets out the immigrant through like a side door or something. Now, some of y'all can correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't read about this too much. But what I've read is that the law enforcement agents that were there saw this immigrant guy leaving, let him go, then arrested the judge after she started yelling at them for, coming in and disrupting her courtroom, which of course they have no business doing. But I guess officially the charge is obstruction. Someone said, executive order strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens worries me. We will get back to that. We're getting to that pretty soon. So I'll continue. Let's get into this. And we are actually going to start with immigration, so I'm glad that I got to get on that topic for a little while. So, a week or two ago, the Supreme Court ruled in a very rare 9-0 decision that the White House has to facilitate the return of a legal U.S. resident who was wrongly deported, whose name is Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is an El Salvadoran immigrant. He came here fleeing gang violence. His family was being targeted, I believe. And in 2019, there was a protective order put in place by a Maryland court, Maryland is the state where he lived, preventing him from being deported back to El Salvador because of the threat to his life. He was deported anyway. And the Supreme Court has ordered his return. Donald Trump and his administration has defied this order. And when I say he was wrongly deported, I'm not just stating my opinion. I think most of his deportations are wrongful, but this time, the White House itself publicly admitted it. They admitted that they got the wrong guy, that they sent him to an El Salvadoran gulag, that they know he is the wrong guy, that they know he is not supposed to be there, and they refuse to bring him home. Now, this has caused a lot of public outcry. And even now, a week or two later, they still won't release him. They still won't do anything to bring him home. I was researching for this stream earlier today, and I looked up his name, and the first article I got was Kristi Noem, the, I think, Department of either Homeland Security or of the Interior Secretary, and she said that if he was returned to the United States, he would be deported all over again. So why this tough stance on a guy who is clearly innocent? It seems a strange position, right? Like, it's a PR nightmare. They know they're in the wrong. Trump's approval ratings on immigration, which used to be his strongest issue, are now underwater. They know, clearly, that they are in the wrong. So why are they doing all of this? I will tell you why. Because they are asserting their power, the power of the presidency, of the executive branch, over everyone and everything else in this country, over Congress, over the Supreme Court, over any court. They don't care about courts, they've pretty clearly said that. Over the will of the people, over every institution we have. Unitary executive theory, baby. They're making a stand on this case not because they believe in it, not because they really think that this guy is a dangerous gang member who has to be kept in a foreign prison to keep American citizens safe, because they know that's bullshit. They are doing this because they can get away with it. Because if they get away with it, then they can get away with quite literally anything. And they have. They've gotten away with it. Plainly. A U.S. Senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, went to El Salvador a while ago to go and find Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He did. They had a talk. I heard he was moved to a different, like, lower security prison after that, which is all fine and dandy and good. It's a good thing. But the fact is, he remains in a prison in El Salvador, despite a Supreme Court order by a practically impossible 9-0 margin ordering his return. The Trump administration chose to take a stand on this to prove that they can do anything and that no one will do anything to stop them. And they were right. In the last week, I have read stories. I went and found all of them. I'm sure there's more, but the stories I've read, at least 4 children, aged 2, 4, 7, and 10, one of whom is a recent brain cancer survivor, and all of whom are U.S. citizens, have been deported. Now remember, one of Trump's campaign promises was to end birthright citizenship. The parents of these kids are undocumented immigrants. They were born on U.S. soil, therefore they are U.S. citizens. But of course there's no law anymore. So they deported them anyway. Most of you probably haven't even heard of this. Hell, I've barely heard of it. I mean, I'm aware that it happened, but I've not seen anyone talking about it in any serious way. There's no big scandal like there was with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He remains in captivity. Hell, he might stay there forever. He's gone. And now we're deporting U.S. citizens. I have heard no outcry. I mean, there's a mass protest planned tomorrow. There was one on April 5th that was quite large. There was one planned for April 19th that was a lot less impressive. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow's May Day, maybe. But regardless, it doesn't matter. No protest is going to bring them home. Because the voice of the people doesn't matter. Because this is just the way that things are now. And 20 minutes in, it's about time that I get to the central thesis, the central point of this kind of unusual lecture-y broadcast. We live here now. We said it couldn't happen here. It did. It happened here. Let's be very plain with at least one another. How many people are watching right now? 25 people? 24 people? We're all generally in agreement, I imagine, on what's going on. 24 people doesn't sound like a lot, but we all have friends, we all have family, we all have co-workers and acquaintances, online friends, whatever. We all have people in our lives that we can talk to about this. If every one of you talks to 10 people, that's 250 people. It's not a lot, but it's a start. So now, I will give you the direction of your conversation, if any of you do actually choose to do that. I will lay down, in my opinion at least, what is happening. I titled this We Live Here Now. I said it once, I'll probably say it again. It's a title from an Atlantic podcast that I have shamelessly stolen and repurposed for a completely different topic. So here's how it is. Here's what's happened. I said it happened here. What happened here? Fascism, nationalism, Nazism, national conservatism, call it what you like, tyranny, has come to the United States of America, wrapped in the flag and carrying the cross. It has marched, essentially unopposed, into the halls of power, into the White House, into the Supreme Court, into Congress. And it has occupied those halls of power without so much as an inkling of meaningful resistance. Next year's July 4th celebration is 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The American Republic, as it has existed for 248 years, 249 in July, is over. It's done. The democratic experiment we have undertaken for these last 2.5 centuries has, at last, failed. The names have not changed yet. They might not change for a long time. They might not change ever. In our lifetimes, anyway. Like, if you go and look at the United States page on Wikipedia right now, it won't say 1776 to 2025 the way it does if you look at the Weimar Germany page on Wikipedia, which will list to you right at the top 1918 to 1933. It might not say that on Wikipedia or on, I don't know, Encyclopedia Britannica or anywhere else that you read. We're still called the United States of America. We're still ruled by the President and Congress and the Supreme Court, supposedly. But beyond that, beyond the name, beyond the aesthetic, it's over for American democracy. We have reached the end of a spiral that has been taking us here for years. And we can disagree on how many years, but at least since 2016. At least since Trump was first elected. Probably longer. Now, Democrats like to do this rhetorical line where they'll say that Trump's margin of victory was really, really small. It was like 1.5%, which is historically small, that's true. And that he doesn't have, nearly as much of a mandate to do all these crazy things that he's doing as he himself seems to think he does. That's probably true. He certainly doesn't have that mandate. He did win by a very slim margin. He holds the House by like 2 or 3 seats. He won the vote by less than 2%. It's very close. Even in the Electoral College, it wasn't that much of a landslide. He won all the swing states, but even then I think he only got like 320, 330 something electoral votes. That's not that much. But Hell, even if he didn't win the popular vote again, like he didn't the first time, what does it matter? Like the raw vote margin that we're talking about. Oh, Trump doesn't have a mandate. 49.5% isn't a mandate. Well, it's not a mandate, but what does that matter? The raw vote margin doesn't really tell the whole story, does it? I mean, how is a democratic republic based on checks and balances, the balance of powers, you know, rule of law? How is that supposed to continue its existence when a reliable like 40 to 50% of the voting population will happily and mindlessly cast their ballots for a man who openly and repeatedly talks about wanting to be a dictator in his own words? I mean, if every election for 10 years running is a referendum on democracy itself, then we have already lost. Elections are meant to be about policy, about my respectable opponent on the other side. I disagree with his opinion on the tax policy, but I respect him as my opponent from the other side. I used to hear that all the time in American politics. Not anymore. Because elections aren't about policy. It's not about healthcare. It's not about immigration. It's not about the border or housing or, I don't know, urban planning or foreign policy. None of that matters. For the last 3 elections, what we have been voting on is democracy itself. 2016 was different because Trump definitely has changed a lot in 10 years. But even then, by the end of Trump's first term, we were very quickly approaching the end of American democracy. Between his crackdowns on peaceful protesters in the summer of 2020 and his election interference in the fall and winter of 2020 and, of course, the January 6th riots, which we're going to get back to, we were getting very close. The last 3 elections have all been, do we want to be a democracy or not? When that is the case, democracy itself can no longer continue to exist. 50% of the population, 55, 60, is not enough to maintain a democracy. It's got to be at least like 80, 90% of the population. Any more than that, and it's too unstable. You're asking for disaster. So like I said, we lost our democracy the moment our elections started being a referendum on democracy and not on the policies of the candidates. Whatever you believe about the rights that you have, guaranteed to you by the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, forget it. They don't exist. Whatever you believe about, I don't know, due process under the law, the balance of powers in government, free and fair elections, I don't know, protection from cruel and unusual punishment, or search and seizure without a warrant, or the right to bear arms, the right to free speech. Forget it. It doesn't exist. It's gone. It's over. It's words on a page. They were never real. They're fictions. They always were. They were fictions that we all chose to believe in, which in every practical sense made them real. And for 250 years, that more or less worked. Because we chose to believe in all that crap, and it materialized as a result. But it did only matter because we believed in it. When past presidents tried to break the law, other branches of government revolted against them. Presidents who did that and faced that kind of internal revolt did ultimately always surrender to the other branches, House and Senate victories in all of the party's history. FDR notwithstanding. But now? Well, now we have a criminal president in the literal and metaphorical sense. 34 felony counts. And, of course, breaking the law every single day that he continues to be in office and continues to do what he does. We have a criminal president acting totally outside the law, openly defying the Constitution, and at least like 30% of the country just doesn't care. I know people in my personal life who are looking at all of this and still have not accepted that Trump is a rogue president turning the United States into a rogue nation. It was never able to go on this way. And now, it will not. I will see if there's anything worth reading in the chat, and then we will continue. Technically, Weimar Germany ended in 1945. The Weimar Constitution was nominally in effect until 1945. That is true, actually. They never formally overthrew the Weimar Constitution, which I always found quite interesting. But that really is the point, isn't it? Weimar Germany, the German Republic, ceased to exist in all but name on January 30th, 1933. But its constitution, which we're relying on now, remained for another 12 years, through World War II, through everything. Wilson decided to text me personally, and I will take a moment to address this, because what this stream is essentially, it's a lecture, because I feel like these things really need to be said. I've been saving them up for a long time, and I saved them for the first 100 days. It's not that long, so I will take my sweet time answering some questions. So Wilson says, from a young age, I always wondered how the separate branches of government can enforce their will. I always found it odd that the Congress could just tell the president what to do and the president would do it. Well, this is sort of the point, right? Nothing forces the president to obey the Supreme Court or to obey Congress. The president is the commander-in-chief. Sure, there's National Guards, sure, there's the U.S. Marshals, but what's that in the face of the fucking Army? Or the Air Force, or the Navy, or the Marines? Or screw it, just a nuke. I mean, nothing, really. There's nothing technically stopping a president from doing any of that, except for the will of the people. There are presidents who have gone rogue before. Nixon, again, comes to mind. Andrew Johnson. There's others, further back in our history. What stopped them? The fact that, essentially, they faced popular revolt if they continued on the current path. And we're going to get back to that, so you can put a pin in that, and if I forget, you can come and remind me. But the answer to your question essentially is belief, faith. Like I said, these ideas aren't real. Congress is just 535 people sitting in 2 rooms talking and writing things and arguing. Technically, that's all it is. The only thing that gives them power is our collective belief in their power. Same way our money works. Why is a green square valuable? It's paper. I could draw one. It would be counterfeit, but I could draw one. Hell, I could print one. Like, I could just go and find a JPEG or a PNG or whatever of a crisp $100 bill, and I could go and print it on my printer. How is that any different from the money I have in my wallet or in my bank account? Well, we have decided as a society that one of them is valuable and the other isn't. Money is just a means of mutual exchange, right? It's just a thing that we all decided is valuable because barter and trade is a ridiculous and unscalable economic system. But money isn't real. Hell, gold. I mean, like a lot of libertarians are obsessed with this idea of going back to the gold standard. Gold has no value. I mean, like, it's pretty, but aside from that, it holds no real worth. It's just metal. It's just very weak, malleable metal that you can't make anything useful out of. You can't build out of gold. Not really. Not at scale. You can't make good weapons out of gold. You can't make good equipment out of gold. You can't make vehicles out of gold. It's useful in some, like, tiny engineering parts, but gold is not inherently valuable. So why has it been the basis for so many currencies in human history? Because metal's shiny. Monkey brains see shiny metal like shiny metal valuable. Because we imagined that it is. Other cultures have had, cowrie shells, stones, iron bars as currency, each more worthless than the last. And now we're at paper, and eventually we're probably going to transcend past paper. It'll be bits, it'll be energy. Money is imaginary, and so is government. These are concepts we created to make our lives better. These are concepts we created to organize our societies, to abrogate the need for violence. So that's the answer to that question. Weimar Republic is a term that Hitler invented. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't particularly... That's true, actually. I've always found that interesting, because no one in the Weimar Republic called it the Weimar Republic. I was actually Googling this when I was doing research for this stream. Its official name, funny enough, was the German Reich. The Weimar Republic's military was the Reichswehr. It was the Deutsches Reich. Unofficially the German Republic, but formally the German Reich. But I'm getting off topic, and we have a good bit more to cover. In your opinion, will the United States keep the facade of a democracy like in Hungary, or will it be a formal dictatorship? We're about to get to that fairly soon. So on that subject, let's hop to, all right? So there's this concept in left-wing circles that this wanton chaos that the Trump administration is causing, mass deportations, tariffs, supply chain shortages, shattering our alliances abroad. There's this idea that all this chaos will lead to huge Democratic victories in 2026 in the midterms and 2028 in the generals. Now, he's certainly quite unpopular. His approval rating has been plunging basically since Inauguration Day. It's currently sitting at like 40%. Different polls give you different stuff. I've seen 42, I've seen 39, I've seen 37, roughly 40%. And as the effects of the tariffs start to hit, I've been seeing stories this week of like empty ports, empty container ships, empty shelves. As that gets more and more prominent, his approval rating will dip more and more. I think the floor for his approval rating realistically is like 20-25%. Maybe that's optimistic. Maybe it's more like 30%. But it will fall some more. And that being said, if we were to have free and fair elections next year and in 2028, Democrats would definitely be on track to win their greatest victories since FDR. There were special elections earlier at the start of this month where Republican candidates in deep red Florida did still win, but by way thinner margins than they did just last November. And I saw someone did this. If we applied the swing from those two elections to the whole map, Democrats would end up with like more than 300 seats, I think, in the House of Representatives. That would be great. And that's what should happen in a democracy. But I did use that word if. If we have free and fair elections, if the results are accepted, if Trump concedes his loss, which is... When I was writing this, I initially wrote graciously concedes, but I thought that was too ridiculous and unrealistic. If he concedes and leaves in 2029, then yes, we will have a huge Democratic victory that could possibly turn the ship around, save us, hell, maybe even lead us into a grand new American golden age. The Democratic Party itself is undergoing quite the internal revolt by people like myself who are desperate for them to finally do something and save our sinking nation. To that, I'll ask you all a question, and anyone else who watches this later on, and anyone else I talk to about this in the future. Why are we supposed to believe that there are going to be free and fair elections in 2026 and 2028? Why are we supposed to believe that Trump is not going to interfere, the Trump administration anyway, Trump administration officials and law enforcement? Why are we supposed to believe they won't imprison Democratic candidates, maybe even en masse? Why are we supposed to believe that they won't throw out ballots en masse? Or hell, just fucking falsify them? Doesn't need to be that complicated. In the worst case scenario, hell, why not declare martial law and cancel the elections altogether? I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I think that's probably less likely than the rest. But what's actually technically stopping them? Yeah, it's unconstitutional, all of that. But every single other thing they've been done and that I've talked about during this broadcast is also unconstitutional, and it doesn't seem to be stopping them so far. I am not the first person to make the observation that the Trump administration isn't really acting like one that will face another election. And it's not just a clever, little jab at them. It is a warning. They're not acting like they're going to face another election because they clearly do not plan to. Not a real one, anyway. Again, while it's not outside the realm of possibility that they will just declare martial law and cancel the election, but I don't think that's gonna happen. It feels incompetent, so they might do something that stupid. But I find that less likely. What I do expect is massive blatant interference by the administration and by law enforcement agencies like the FBI and the again, what is to stop ICE from going and taking some Democratic congressmen and deporting them? Actually, technically, what will stop them? Nothing. They will probably have an election next year. The Democrats are on track to have a massive victory, but that won't happen. In one of his campaign events, Trump was talking to some evangelicals, and oh dear, we're facing internet problems again. The administration is jamming this broadcast. Oh well, I will keep going because we have quite the viewing here, and I definitely want to finish this off before my internet entirely crashes. At a rally, at a campaign event last year, Trump was talking to some evangelical Christian group, and he said, I only need you to vote one more time. I only need you to vote in this one election, and after this, you will never have to vote again. And once again, the whole gaslighting Trump media machine goes, no, it was just a joke. He's just saying that things will be so good after this term that they won't need to because the country will be perfect and fixed or whatever. Bullshit. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're saying. They're going to keep denying it over and over and over and over again. And then they'll do it. And just like that, we've always been at war with East Asia. It's happened, just look at tariffs. Look at his, every other fucking hour he seems to be changing his policies on tariffs. And every single one, somehow, despite the fact that they are mostly directly contradicting one another, is the correct one. What do you know? Ain't that something? Everything he does is correct. Big Brother is always right, yeah? Schrodinger's... Yes, thank you. Someone posted this in the chat. Schrodinger's douchebag, a person who makes offensive or inflammatory remarks and characterizes these statements as either sincere or joking based on the reactions of others. Precisely. It's not a coincidence that so much of the Trump inner circle and the Trump media machine turns out to be pedophiles and rapists and murderers and other fraudsters and criminals. There's a reason why grifters and assholes gravitate to that movement. The reason they all act like abusive parents or abusive boyfriends is because most of them are. They're just doing it to the whole country now instead of their girlfriend or their kids. I am nearly at the end of what I have to say here, so I will be taking questions. This will be a short stream. I think we're going to go for an hour. But I want to talk about something now, which is quite serious. I've been having a little bit of fun, but I'm going to wipe the smirk off my face here. We've got to talk about something serious, and Hey, I might get Secret Service at my door at the end of this, but whatever, someone's gotta say it. There is only one conclusion to this. And maybe it's been that way since January 6, 2021, maybe longer. But it certainly is the case now. The only way out of this, for the United States and for the people of the United States, is violence. Just pure and simple. Now, I'm not a revolutionary. I'm not a violent person by nature. I'm, generally speaking, as far as policy goes, I'm an incrementalist for the most part. I am a moderate in most senses politically. My more left-wing viewers perceive me as center-right. I have been in, like, 3 fights in my entire life. 2 that I can remember. Maybe there's probably, like, one other that I'm not remembering. Point is, I am very averse to violence. Generally speaking, I think sitting down and talking is almost always a better solution. That's why we have a democracy. To dull humanity's worst instincts. To give us a method of conflict resolution that is more productive and less bloody than warfare. The problem with autocracy, among many others, is that it leaves the people no other language than physical violence. I assure you, it does not bring me any joy to say that. I have been mulling over that concept in my head for 3 weeks, since the last stream. Since I started reading about the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story, this has been on my mind. There was an essay posted on this guy Nicholas Decker's Substack the other day called When Must We Kill Them? And I'd actually like to, I wasn't going to, but I'd like to read part of it. It's pretty short. And that is where I got the Secret Service joke from, because Secret Service did actually come and knock on his door. Evil has come to America. The present administration is engaged in barbarism. Lists some examples. It has pardoned its thugs, extorted the lawyers who defend its opponents. If these actions become normal, the government could arrest anyone and deport them to a prison in a foreign land without hope of redress, for no reason. It is nothing less than a total abdication of rule of law in this country. There is no guard or protection against them. If this theory prevails, then it is the end of America as a free nation. Here it is, yes. I do not wish for this essay to be a mere catalogue of outrages. The conduct of the present administration is as well known to you as it is to myself, and can be understood by any sensible person. What remains for us to decide is when we fight. If the present administration wills it, it could sweep away the courts, it could sweep away democracy, and it could sweep away freedom. Protest is useful only insofar as it can effect action. Our words might sway the hearts of men, but not of beasts. If the present administration chooses this course, then the questions of the day can be settled not with legislation, but with blood and iron. In short, we must decide when we must kill them. None of us wish for war, but if the present administration wishes to destroy the nation, I would accept war rather than to see it perish. I hope you would choose to do the same. And he goes into more detail about what form that violence would have to take. Those of you who know me personally, and those of you who've watched my content for a long time, might be surprised. This is not the way I talk normally. This is not the way I think normally. And it's kind of funny, because I'm not the only liberal who has been saying this for the past few weeks. And a lot of more left-wing people have been commenting on how funny it is that, like, the far left is cowering right now while liberals are taking up arms and talking about a violent revolution. Really isn't that strange, though. The liberal idea is based on consent of the governed. It is based on the Declaration of Independence that when a government... Jesus Christ, let's go read the Declaration of Independence. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to the ends of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. I love the Declaration of Independence because, of course, it's our founding document, but also it is an excellent manifesto for liberalism. For the liberalism of then, and for the liberalism of now, and for the liberalism of the future. Revolution is not the answer to a bad government that can be voted out. It is, however, the answer to a bad government that can't be voted out. Again, this is the problem with having an autocratic government that leaves no other avenue. I have to be careful with my words. There's 28 people watching this right now. I'm assuming none of them are government agents. I assume this will not break containment. I assume that when this goes up on YouTube, it'll get like 1,000 views max, and that'll be that. What the hell do I know? Here's a thought I've entertained for a while now. There is nothing stopping Immigration and Customs Enforcement from coming to my door, cuffing me, and deporting me to anywhere. Like, again, legally. There is nothing that anyone is going to do. And now, Kristi Noem, I think she is DHS secretary, is saying that the federal agent can enter people's homes without a warrant, which is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, but again, the Constitution doesn't matter. And the problem is, if they enter without a warrant, then what exactly is stopping the person in that house from taking their gun and shooting them? Nothing. Not in states with castle laws, anyway. For instance, Texas, where a lot of illegal immigrants live. And a lot of people that they would assume are illegal immigrants who aren't. There are two peaceful solutions to what is happening here. Well, three. The first is that Trump gets visited by the ghost of Christmas past, and he has a total change of heart, and he goes out and starts handing out presents to the children, however that story goes. Option 2 is that somehow we do have a free and fair election next year. Democrats win both the House and Senate by very convincing margins. They impeach both Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, because neither of those motherfuckers can be trusted. They convict them, again, all very unlikely, and then we would get a Democratic Speaker of the House as president until 2028, because I think that's how the line of succession goes. I think after that it's the Secretary of State, which would be Marco Rubio, which is fine, I can live with that. I think that's fine. He won't be a dictator. He'll be a lame duck president for a couple years, but that's fine. So that's theoretically possible. Maybe. And of course, the third option, in my opinion, is the darkest option, is the peaceful resolution to this is there is no resolution, but there's also no revolution. There's no armed resistance. Trump runs in 2028. He rigs the election. He wins. He stays on for another 4 years. And everybody is completely cowed, aside from, like, some fringe resistance movements with, like, 50 queer anarchists, whatever, who are scared to hold a gun. That's also possible. However, I don't think it's what's going to happen. What the Trump administration is trying to do is to manufacture, if not consent, then at least compliance. They don't really need us to like them, they just need us not to kill them. So they are trying to make it appear as though there is nothing we can do to stop them. To make people hopeless and apathetic. To make people give up. And I've spoken plenty on that subject before. I don't think it's in our DNA as a people. I could be wrong. I suppose we'll find out in the next few years. But America was born in flames. It was born in revolution against a tyrant. Now we have a tyrant once again. People are on edge. People are antsy. People feel that something is wrong. And in a year's time, they will want to go to the ballot box and express that anxiety. But of course, as a certain political thinker once said, if the ballot box doesn't work, the next thing is the cartridge box. Look, y'all, I'm just gonna say it outright. I'm learning to shoot guns. I have absolutely no intentions to ever shoot anyone. I hope I never need to. Like I said, I've been in like 2 fights in my entire life. The idea sickens me. But goddammit, we're going there. And the form that violence takes can be quite varied. Could be something like Euromaidan in Ukraine. A brief and intense moment of national unity against a tyrannical government that does ultimately force them out. That's probably the best version of this, in my opinion. It could be civil war, which is by far the worst option. And I guess it could be like a skirmish between security forces, like in DC in 2029, when Trump refuses to leave office. But one way or another, there is no peaceful way out. They don't concede. They don't accept even the possibility that they could lose. They openly talk about pretty much ignoring the Constitution and staying on past their term. So what are we going to do? Because I know what they're going to do. They will crush all opposition with violent force. They're already doing it. The question is, what do we do? What I can say on public airwaves is limited, and I've probably already said more than I'd like to. I don't have an answer, people. I have observations which you can take and do with what you wish. I've made a few political predictions in my time. Unfortunately, most of them have been bad, and most of them have turned out to be true. I was telling people for quite a while that January 6th would happen. Not necessarily that I knew the day itself, but I was telling people he would not go peacefully. And he didn't. I was right. It brings me absolutely no joy to say it, but I was right. The one big political prediction I screwed up, actually, is the 2024 election. I really thought Kamala was going to win. And to be fair, she wasn't that far off. But whenever I make a bad prediction, generally speaking, it's correct. So I hope I'm wrong, is the point. I've said that many, many times about many different predictions before. I really hope I am mistaken. I really hope it does not have to come to bloodshed. But any rational person looking at this situation struggles to come up with any other conclusion. I invite any of you to give me a counterexample that would make my day. But somehow I doubt it. I mean, hi mom, hi dad, one of you is watching. But when my own parents, who are the most, I say this with love in my heart, but who are the most like moderate milquetoast centrist people in the universe, are talking about the need for revolution, that scares me. Because I'm young, I'm 20 years old, I have fire in my belly or whatever. You know, I'm untempered by experience and wisdom and whatever. What I say doesn't matter. When 60-year-old centrist independents are talking about the need for revolution, and possibly civil war? I won't draw the conclusions for you. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. There is only so far that this line of thinking can go before we just start outright planning it, and I don't want to be the one to plan it. If it happens, it happens. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you all how to start a revolution. What I will tell you is this. Make plans. Prepare. Because it's only going to get worse. For a long time. Hopefully not too long, but at least a few years. Someone earlier said that there's only 1,360 days left of this administration. Maybe of this one. That doesn't mean anything for the next one. And we don't know what the next one is going to be. There has been no tyrannical regime that has gone down without some form of violence. Soviet Union. I mean, there were some skirmishes, but no mass, revolution. You alright? Tyranny, by its very nature, allows itself only one way of death. And that's death by a gunshot. I don't want to stay on this topic for too long, either tonight or in future streams. I'm not sure when the next stream is going to be. Typically it's been every 2 weeks. This one it's been 3 weeks because the previous Tuesday I was flying to Arizona for a family trip. We might move these to once every 3 weeks. We might move it to once every 4 weeks. I'm really not sure. Because, honestly, summarizing the news every 2 weeks the way we have been is kind of exhausting. I don't want to stay on this topic for too long. But I will tell you this. Prepare yourselves, mentally and physically. Arm yourselves with knowledge and with other things. Stock up. That's just general advice. Violence or not, there's going to be shortages. Quite soon. Some stores already have empty shelves. Stock up on the essentials, on, toilet paper and canned foods and the like. Talk to the people closest to you. Figure out who you can and can't trust. And do what you can before it starts. Spend time with friends. Go to school, go to work. See your parents, call your grandparents, walk your dog. Have sex, drink, do drugs, whatever, doesn't matter. Live while you can, because you might not be able to for too much longer. I don't like to get this dark in these silly little live streams. But it's a dark time we're living in. It's strange, again, my fucking parents are in the other room listening to this shit. Listening to their 20-year-old son talk about about the end of the American Republic by violence. But that's the surreal reality that we live in now. We live here now, folks. It's here. American fascism is here, we're living in it. There's only one way out. There's only one answer to this. I hope I'm wrong. Quite sincerely. But for my purposes, will be preparing for that. There's something very strange about it, really. Waking up every day and living your life as though everything were normal, while the dread and doom and ominously looms over you. But that's what life under fascism is, I suppose. Not that I've ever done it before. You wake up, you get dressed, you eat breakfast, you go do whatever it is you do. You live your life. And then one day, maybe it'll all fall apart. Like I said, there are no conclusions I can offer you here. The only conclusions will be in the headlines and possibly on the front lines. I hope not. But that does seem to be where it's heading. Draw your own conclusions. Prepare. We'll be back in 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. We'll have to talk it over and decide. I hope the next broadcast does not need to be this dark and this depressing, but like I said, we will see. Someone earlier mentioned an executive order that was published yesterday, which I would like to find. Here it is. Strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. Section 4. Using national security assets for law and order. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Attorney General and Secretary of Defense shall increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdiction to assist state and local law enforcement. Within 90 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Defense, in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. I mean, technically they haven't declared martial law, but what does that sound like? I hit upload on the big 2-hour-long video on YouTube yesterday. I filed all the 19 copyright disputes. It'll be like 30 days to get all that done. The likelihood that they all succeed is quite low, and then I'll have to file appeals, which will be sad and scary. I talk about a lot of this at length there, but the more you pressure people, the less they're able to endure, and eventually armed struggle is the only answer. Someone in the chat says, I severely doubt I'm going to get a good night's sleep tonight. Well, I've not been sleeping well myself lately. Having all this on the brain. I've been thinking a lot about what the next video, the next like big mainline video after the Star Wars one, is going to be. And I've had some ideas. I'm going to do all of them at some point, probably. But I think I've finally decided on what it's going to be. The working title I have in my brain, I might change it, but the working title is Welcome to American Fascism. And I need to workshop that a lot more, but both the title and the the concept. But we live here now. That's the message I'm going to end on. It's the same one I started with. Whatever you knew before is over. It's done. It's gone. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. Thank you, Wilson, for reminding me of that quote. And it's true. So I will offer you that wisdom from Frederick Douglass. And I think I'm going to call it a night. I said this would be an hour. We're at an hour and 8 minutes. It's long enough. Thank you all for watching. It's only 10:30. I'm rather pleased with that. Thank you all for watching. Links to Discord, Twitter, and my new Patreon in the description. The big, long Star Wars videos up on Patreon. Available to all tiers, starting at $1 a month. Or available for a one-time $3 purchase. I would greatly appreciate any financial support at this point in time. Many of you have already signed up or bought the video, and I thank all of you. Genuinely watching it blow up on there has been kind of amazing. And very nice counterbalance to everything that I'm talking and thinking about right now. But anyway, further updates with regards to the next Fireside chat will be on my Discord server within the next few weeks. And until then, I'm around on my Discord server. Y'all know that. I will speak to you all next time. Thank you. Good luck. and good night. Six Semper Tyrannis.